Greetings everyone, welcome to a new video with the Lorsan official release confirmation. You see here in the AFK Journey Discord official news channel a few days ago, they confirmed that Lorsan's story will continue in the season following waves of intrigue, and he will be available in future raid-up recruitments as well. Stay tuned. So it's really cool, and it's interesting that they introduced Lorsan before Tassie, because we know that Tassie's going to come out. So that's why the Lorsan video is coming out on the lore and speculation before Tassie. So in this video, we're going to look at his lore. We're going to look at his affiliations, like who are his relationships in the world. And we're going to take a look at his abilities from AFK Arena, because there's going to be a strong chance his kit will be quite similar, if not a little bit of the same. So let's get started. So this is Lorsan from the AFK Arena fandom. If you look at his quick info, you can see that he's a wilder, obviously, with his bunny rabbit ears. He is a mage, and we saw that from a showcase in like the starter story stuff. And he's male, 175 centimeters, 195 with his ears. He's only 19? Okay, well, at least he's not 5 or 10. His sister is Laika. Check that out. So Laika is actually Lorsan's sister, which is pretty cool. Kaz is his friend, and Kaz is this assassin. She might come into the game in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if she did. Then we'd have another assassin. Oh man. So many assassins. Arden is Lorsan's teacher. And Arden is also Aaron's teacher too, for those who don't know. And then, so the story is, like TLDR, is Lorsan came from the Dark Forest. He was found to be a protege. He was trained by Arden, and then he's always had this curiosity to explore the world, go out and see what it's like. Whereas most of the forest people, they actually usually like to just stay in their forest. They're very content. But Lorsan's the opposite. He should have been a cat, not a rabbit. Anyway, I think there he goes out and he meets a lot of bandmates, like, so he has his own little group that he becomes friends with, and traveling companions. So these are his traveling companions. Gryeth, who knows, we might see them one day. Gwyneth, Isolde. So this is his zombie form, but he used to be human before he was experimented on and transformed by Niru, I believe. We have Rowan, who is his friend and traveling companion, and Rigby. He looks like Gragas. Literally, he looks like Gragas. Wow. And Rosalind is not a traveling companion. It's just that after Lorsan became renowned throughout the world, he was introduced to Rosalind because she had a gift to do some like psychic stuff, and he helped her awaken it. Okay, so I just paused on Gwyneth because I was looking at her story and all this stuff. I think there's going to be some huge story based on the Empire and surrounding a lot of the light bearers, maybe next season, potentially. But who knows? Or maybe not next season, but in a future one, because there's a whole thing you can do with the Empire, with knights and dragons and Lucius and all these people who came from the kingdom. So I think there's a huge potential there in the future. Okay, sorry, let's go back to Lorsan. So we're gonna go through his lore. Okay, so I put up some images so you wouldn't get too bored, in case you are watching visually and not just listening. So let's start with his background. As a child, Lorsan yearned to know what was beyond the edges of the massive forest he called home. After thousands of years of habitation, most wilders prefer to stay nestled among the towering trunks, hidden safely away from the world in leaves and shade. The majority of them never leave the woods, content to remain where they are comfortable. Where the others found comfort, however, Lorsan lived with a growing pressure to wander and explore. It was as if the weight of all the trees was pressing against his back, propelling him to the outside. It made sense, then, that he became a whisperer at a young age. While it is true that most wilders never leave the confines of their green haven, they are not entirely ignorant of the wider world. Nature doesn't stop where forest gives way to field. It simply changes form. The wind whispers listen to the breezes that travel over sea, mountain, and meadow to gather news from far away, staying apprised of the outside. Lorsan had been doing this throughout his childhood when his talent was discovered by Arden. Under the old sage's tutelage, Lorsan quickly learned how to focus and direct his power. His talent was extraordinary, and soon he could draw so much from each gentle breeze that it was almost like he had traveled the wind's journey himself. Still, this wasn't enough for him. He was torn. He was compelled to explore, to put himself in the middle of strange lands. But he had a responsibility to his people. He was one of the most talented whisperers, and if he was away, his talents would only benefit himself. All the sensations and insights the wind carried to him only made his wanderlust grow. He began to become truly discontent, and then eventually despondent at his circumstances. Arden took notice and told him, a good whisperer should listen not only to the wind, but also to his own heart. He gifted the young whisperer with a staff, and left him with a kind word. A brief farewell was scratched out on a bit of parchment. Provisions were gathered, and by the morning, Lorsan had gone. It was time to see firsthand what the wind had hinted at. Lorsan was going outside. Okay, so that's his story, and he goes out and travels. Now, let's take a look at his his abilities. So, first ability is Tempest. Basically, this is his ulti. He builds an AoE as a Tempest, and it continuously grows stronger and deals damage over time. It reaches to a certain point and then the Tempest explodes, dealing 200% damage, to nearby enemies. So this is really good for, obviously Aeron. So Aeron just puts everyone together, Lorsan ultis as well, and then they can't move. Even if they can, they immobilize, but they can't move, so they can't escape from the Tempest. So Aeron is like a must for Lorsan, if this is Lorsan's ulti. This is also good for units who generally have a hard time reaching the backline, because usually you would use someone like Rainier or Vala, but other than assassins, you don't really have. It's really difficult to get through to the backline unless you can flank from the side, which is sometimes difficult. Okay, so Inner Sight. Inner Sight marks an enemy, dealing damage, but the mark is what's important. If they're marked, they have every time there is an ultimate ability used, anyone else who ultis someone with that mark deals 250% bonus damage. And I'm like, wow, Vala, it has to be Vala. So Vala can just ulti even harder. Like, she's already a truck if you invest in her well, but with Lorsan's Inner Sight, they will die, like, guaranteed. No more Dinos. I feel regret. when I think about how I am investing in Dino. Anyway, he's enhanced inner sight, actually can stun enemies as well, which is crazy. Gale Force is his next ability. It links the furthest and closest enemies together, so like imagine a Thorin chain link, except that when one of the two enemies receives damage, the other will receive 80% of that damage received. So that's a lot of damage. So if you just assassinate someone or like just bring in Vala, Sylvina, they will take so much damage. And obviously the Aeron they will take immense damage as well. So last one that I could find is Windward, where it's like a support skill. He casts a shield upon 2 random allies, and their damage is reduced to 250% of Lorsan's own attack. So that's pretty cool too. It's like a Coco thing. You know, it's basically like a Coco ulti, except, well, we'll have to see if this is real, if this actually happens, and we'll have to see his cooldown timer. The other thing is that it's random, so it's a bit RNG. But if he can cast it, if you have Scarlita, for example, she won't be casted, so, and he might not cast himself either, so that leaves only 2 out of 3, you know, 3 heroes that can be cast with a shield. Okay, so last thing is taking a look at some just cooking theory crafting, what his compositions might look like. So the first one is the Aeron team, Aeron Almus. So Aeron, Tornadoes, Almus just adds in that stun. Arden, ultis, Parisa, Carolina might join in the fray. And then you have Lorsan. Oh my goodness. That's a Bombarda, you know? The second one is the Vala assassin team. You don't have to have like the assassin team, the full thing. You could just add Vala with Lorsan, you know? You could add Vala in here if you wanted to. Anyway, so with the assassin team, if Lorsan can mark someone early, which they should before Vala can ulti, then they will die. And with the links and Sylvina teleports to the back line, they will also die. And Nara, well, it depends. They kind of counteract each other, Sylvina and Nara. So they might want to target different targets, but yeah. Okay, and the last one is like these other ones are with Hypergean Celestials. You have Scarlita here as a store comp. And the reason why you might want to do this is because of the, like, it's not a good idea. It's not that great. Sounds okay in theory, but the inner sight where you mark them as well, and Scarlita just ultis them. But the thing is, like, Scarlita might not even ulti them. But Dino can ulti them, so if Dino can get his ulti up and marks them with the inner sight too, that would do tremendous damage. And the same idea goes for Tali. Okay, well that's it for this speculation video. I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know your thoughts on how you feel about Lorsan, his abilities, and his story. If you enjoyed, give a like, thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.